Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Four months ago, George Osborne sounded upbeat about the nation's finances. Not anymore. Writing in The Sun on Sunday, that well-known financial journal, ahead of Wednesday's budget, the Chancellor says the world is facing its most uncertain period since the Great Recession. He says Britain has to act now rather than pay later, and he warns of more cuts to come. Let's listen to what the Chancellor said on the Andrew Marr Show.
Well, I think the world is a much more difficult and dangerous place. Indeed, my message in this budget is that the world is a more uncertain place than at any time since the financial crisis, and we need to act now so we don't pay later. That's why I need to find additional savings equivalent to 50p in every £100 the government spends by the end of the decade, because we've got to live within our means to stay secure, and that's the way we make Britain fit for the future.
Chancellor earlier this morning. Nick, what did we learn from the Chancellor today?
Well, what he's doing is preparing the ground for a very difficult budget. You know, why is he talking about the difficult global economic circumstances? Obviously, we have a very significant slowdown in China. It's two reasons. One, it helps him in the EU referendum campaign. Why would you want to take the risk of leaving the EU, he says, when it's difficult economic circumstances? But it also helps him with the budget, because he is going to have to explain how it is that he was talking in the July budget and the autumn statement about targeting a 10.1 billion budget surplus by 2019-2020. He's going to have to be talking about how there's now an £18 billion hole in his public finances, in the size of the economy. He's going to have to explain that, and he's going to have to explain, is he going to be able to meet that surplus? So he needs to have an alibi for that.
And all the global headwinds he's talking about, whether it's problems in the emerging markets, slowdown in China, the Eurozone struggling to be over 1%. We knew all that back in July.
We did. Nothing's really changed. The thing about budgets with the Chancellor, George Osborne, is that he's fundamentally, he's not an economist, he's a politician. It's always about politics. It's not ideal, really, coming into local elections, London mayor elections, to be doing a load of cuts to public services and possible tax rises, maybe fuel duty and the like. But the reality is he's always looking at the long game, and he does always play a brilliant politician's long game. He's looking to 2020. He doesn't really care what's happening right now.
But he sometimes plays a pretty bad short game, as we've seen from, remember, the Omnishambles budget and so on. Is it going to be a difficult budget, or will it just be a steady-as-she-goes budget?
Well, I think it's going to be a very boring budget. I mean, the thing that was striking about that interview this morning is that at least half of it was about the European Union, not about the budget. And quite a lot of the rest of it was about the Tory leadership and him taking pot shots at Boris Johnson. I mean, he talks about a difficult and dangerous time. The subtext of this budget is that it's been a difficult and dangerous time for George Osborne and his future. He sat there and he said, I'm not going to sit in this chair, Andrew Marr, and blather away. Well, who could he possibly be talking about there?
I have no idea who you
But, a week ago we were told that the subtext of this budget would be, the dangers of Brexit and the Tory leadership. It's not the subtext of this budget. That is the text of this budget. There's hardly anything in it by the sound of it, in terms of big macro stuff. And it's, as you say, steady as she goes.
Can we just have another shout out for that brilliant CapEx headline by Ian Martin at the time of the autumn statement? Genius political strategist clears up mess left by genius political strategist.
Well, we'll see. He may be nurturing a little rabbit right now to surprise us all with.
I've been getting away with it all